What do you do if you run into a Dragon Dance Tyranitar in Generation 3 OU? I will be answering this question that nobody ever asked me. How do you beat Tyranitar? Well, the answer is you don't. What you do is you call your opponent bad and that they're a loser and that you're smarter than them, and then you forfeit the game and start up a new one. You're just going to get flinched 3 times in a row by Rock Slide. I've done this plenty of times before, but hey, you don't want to listen to me? Oh, okay, you don't want to listen to me. I am going to construct a matchup chart right in front of you people of who can defeat a Dragon Dance Lumberry Tyranitar that is at 100% health. I don't know how you allowed that to happen. And it's adamant with 252 attack, 252 speed, and I forgot to put 4 health. It's 4 health because I felt like it. In case you're not super cool and hip with the times, this on the left, these are the tiers, okay? So right in the middle we have even. That means about a 50-50 shot versus the Giga Chad of Pokemon singles. W means you'll probably win. The chosen ones are the ones that will most likely win. L, you're not going to believe it. This might be tricky, but that means you're going to lose. And then the bottom one is called You're Cooked. If you don't know what being cooked is in 2026, I don't know how you found this video. Just to be very clear for this matchup chart, for all these Pokemon we're going to be talking about, it's just a 1v1. You versus that Tyranitar, okay? Mono e mono. You come in at 100% health, that's it, okay? You don't get any support. Nobody's coming to help you. No baton pass, no nothing like that. It's just you, okay? Okay, cool. So now that everybody understands, let's start going through all the viable Pokemon in Gen 3 OU. These are all alphabetical, okay? So Aerodactyl's up first. You are going to die, Aerodactyl. But you have a fighting shot because you could be cringe yourself and then flinch that guy, because even after Dragon Dance, it doesn't even matter if he was Jolly. Aerodactyl is one of the few guys that will still be outrunning a Dragon Dance Tyranitar. So you could flinch him with Rock Slide, you know, a couple of times, by the way. You would need 2, maybe throwing a crit in there for some extra spice. Or if you're banded, you could crit him with Earthquake. So that's pretty unlikely, but it could happen. Plus, the Tyranitar, the killing move of choice will be Rock Slide, so they have a 10% chance to miss. So you could do it, but if I was a betting man, I would not bet on Aerodactyl. I don't think I've ever seen Blissey get mollywopped so hard by anything before in this format. No, I'm just kidding. There are things like Metacham out there. But, yep, not even Blissey has a shot in the dark, like 0 shot in hell with that Dragon Dance up. You can't even paralyze him. You can't poison him because you got the Lumberry in my magical situation that I came up with. Rock Slide, you could get flinch, you get crit, you will die on the spot. All the particles in your body will be eviscerated from this existence. And he's so strong that 2 Earthquakes can take you out. Dude, if you have a bold Blissey and max defense, max HP, 2 Earthquakes from that Tyranitar that I came up with, it's almost 100% going to kill you every single time. Because the lowest roll is 46, so 46 plus 46, 92 plus Sands, 98. So you can maybe live. Okay, you're cooked is my point. You have no shot, especially with those Rock Slide flinches coming your way. Okay, the next Pokemon actually has a fighting chance. It's Breloom. This one's going to be even. You probably thought, oh, it's a fighting type. It's going to win. No, because Tyranitar is moving fast. He's got a Lumberry, so Breloom cannot put him to sleep. Now, that's a bit iffy. It's a bit tricky because you can't one-hit him with Mach Punch, okay? And if he's got Double Edge, you're just going to die. So your best shot is actually, like in this particular situation, just go for Brick Break. Although I know some of you guys are crazy. You like to miss your moves, so you go for Sky Upper Miss. But if you miss, well, then that's it. The good news is you do resist Rock Slide, so, you know, you can afford 1 flinch before Brick Breaking them and unaliving them. This is highly dependent on what moves you have in this situation. Okay, so a bit of a volatile matchup. The next person is sort of similar to Breloom. It kind of depends on the moves. If Celebi has either HP Grass or Giga Drain, you have a shot. Doesn't mean you're going to win, because Tyranitar could 1, flinch you with Rock Slide. 2, if he's got HP Bug, boom, boom, you fall down to here. But I got to give you a fighting chance, okay? Because you could have Giga Drain, okay? He hits you, like, this is assuming he doesn't have HP Bug. He has to be hitting you with either Rock Slide or Double Edge, realistically. You got to maybe dodge a Rock Slide, dodge some flinch cringe nonsense. And if you're modest with a little bit of special attack, that can 2-hit that guy with a Hidden Power Grass. Giga Drain won't, but you'll obviously be healing, and the Rock Slides will be doing about half, so you have a fighting chance there. Once again, this is not a real response to Tyranitar, though. This is just like, okay, who... You know, we're sending in 100 people to go fight the gorilla. Who's going to have the best shot? Nobody, but we got to do it. Charizard's cooked. Completely cooked. Moltres, you can go down there with your buddy so you're not alone. They're both fire flying types, people. If you aren't good at math, that means you take quadruple damage from a rock type attack. Tyranitar is a rock type Pokemon that has access to stab rock type attacks with Rock Slide. By the way, because of the Dragon Dance, they're now moving faster than Charizard and Moltres. If he actually misses a Rock Slide, I guess Charizard would technically do better than Moltres, so I'm putting them a little more to the left because that's your one Hail Mary. You go for a Focus Punch, you'll kill Tyranitar. But Tyranitar will, if he has Double Edge, if they want to, they could do that, and you will actually also die. Like, guaranteed KO. Unless you're a super bulky Charizard, nobody's doing that. And it's pretty much the same thing as Moltres. You can't kill it. You don't even have Focus Punch. You'd have to go for 2 Hidden Power Grasses, and they actually still have a shot at living that. Don't send in Charizard, please. Now, you would think Claydol would do decently, but in this situation, no. And I was tempted to put in You're Cooked, but I think I'm going to be nice to Claydol. I'm going to throw him in just a strong L, you know, because you can't one-hit Tyranitar with an Earthquake, even against a squishier one like that. Tyranitar, if that guy has either HP Bug or Double Edge, that's a strong 2-hit KO. But you know, and by the way, even after the Double Edge recoil, they'll still take you out. They'll have enough HP after eating up a pretty strong Earthquake in most situations. But I'm going to have Claydol there because there's a shot of them, you know, doing a lot of damage, and then you crit them with Earthquake. So you have a 6% chance of defeating Tyranitar, whereas those guys down there, yikes, it's lower than 6. I mean, there was that situation where Charizard gets the Focus Punch, but I mean, that's an oddly specific scenario, if you ask me. So, Claydol, you're in trouble, but you're not, like, cooked. Cloyster, no, you're cooked. If Cloyster has 0 defense and 0 HP, that Tyranitar has a guaranteed 1-hit KO with Rock Slide. Now, admittedly, they could miss, and you could crit them. But I'm still going to say you're cooked. The only reason I'm saying Claydol is slightly higher, even though it's basically in the same situation, is just because sometimes Tyranitar will be crazy and it'll have like Dragon Dance, and it'll be like Taunt, and then Rock Slide and Earthquake. So if they don't have HP Bug and Double Edge, then Claydol has a better shot. But not Cloyster, because every single Dragon Dance Tyranitar ever is going to have Rock Slide. So you're cooked. Now, we have our first winner. An Adamant Doug Trio, right, with a Choice Band max attack. It'll be barely faster than Tyranitar and is a guaranteed 1-hit KO on this magical Tyranitar that I spawned. Now, just hypothetically speaking, if that Tyranitar was Jolly, well, then we would die. But to counter that, if our Doug Trio was Jolly, we'd be faster than them again. And then it's about a 75% chance to 1-hit KO him from full. So, Doug Trio is one of the few chosen ones. Okay, I'm going to give Flygon the W, but it's not a super strong W, just slightly, because if you have max attack, like 252 EVs, and you have a Choice Band, you can one-hit Tyranitar. Cool. But Tyranitar can one-hit that kind of Flygon with Double Edge. You know, it's got about a 75 to 87% chance of one-hitting them. So Flygon's got a small chance. But the thing is, Tyranitar might just not have double edge. If it doesn't have double edge, you're chilling. Also, if you're defensive Flygon, if you're max HP, max defense, it makes no difference. You can't one-hit Tyranitar anymore, and they're still going to two-hit you anyway, and they're going to be moving faster. But just because you might not have double edge, I'll give you a slight W. Your Tyranitar's second hardest hitting attack for this set would be like HP Bug, so you'd be okay. But I wouldn't bet the barn on it. Or is it the farm? One of the two. Don't bet anything on it. Just, you know, take it with a grain of salt. Fortress is about even. It's kind of a toss-up. Fortress, if it actually has enough attack, right? Adamant, whatever. It can actually two-hit Tyranitar while living 2 rock slides, you know, if you got leftovers. HP Bug does a little more than Earthquake. If you want to use Earthquake, that's fine, but you're going to need to invest a little bit more in attack. But the reason I'm going to say it's even is, yes, you could dodge rock slides. You can live 2 rock slides, right? And then kill them with HP Bug. But what if they, because they're moving faster, what if they crit you? What if they flinch you? Because they got to do it twice. So you get hit by 2 rock slides, you get flinched. That's GG. So about even, although Fortress, you got to give the guy some credit. This dude isn't supposed to be doing damage. They're supposed to be tanking attacks, and bro's getting crushed out here. I'm going to make Gengar very simple. You're cooked, okay? There is scenarios, but most of them, Gengar will be cooked. You would need to be faster than them, so you got to be timid, and you got to have a lot of special attack investments, so you have no bulk, or very little bulk, and then you would actually have to land a crit, particularly with Hidden Power Grass, because it does more than Giga Drain. And that's what you would have to do. And that is oddly specific. There's so many Gengars out there that situation won't be happening with. They're going to try and Will-O-Wisp. Oh, they got a Lumberry Hypnosis. Oh, every other attack's not going to do enough. Explosion, nada. So that Rock Slide from Tyranitar is going to hurt a lot. If you make Gengar as tanky as possible, you can barely live. And then the sand can chip you. And then at best, you'll barely survive. But you won't be doing enough damage with your grass moves anyway. So I'm going to say Gengar is cooked. Okay, now I'm going to be very nice to Gyarados. Upon entry, Gyarados can intimidate Tyranitar in this magical situation. I'm going to say that's strong L because Tyranitar, if Gyarados is EV'd correctly, so it's adamant, after Dragon Dance, it'll be barely faster than Tyranitar, and the rest in HP. It has a chance of, 1, surviving a Rock Slide, which they could obviously miss. But you also have to factor in the sand, so that makes their chances very, very slim if that Rock Slide connects. But there's a chance. And then Gyarados could go for their own Dragon Dance, outspeed Tyranitar, and then go for Earthquake, and then they have about like a 70% chance to KO Tyranitar. Once again, not good odds, but it's way better than those guys down there. And we're obviously factoring in the Intimidate. If you don't want to factor that in, then Gyarados would be like somewhere around there. Yeah. The next Pokemon's Heracross. This one's actually very even. Tyranitar, this is assuming Heracross has no bulk and it's just a lot of attack and speed. Tyranitar has about a 12% chance to KO with Rock Slide, right? But you also have a 10% chance to miss Rock Slide. Okay, so that's about even. But you can also flinch Heracross. Okay. But if you have double edge is actually about a 50-50, believe it or not. So therefore, Heracross can survive a decent amount of these situations, and 1-hit KO with Brick Break, no exceptions. But it might not have Brick Break, and it'll have to go for Mega Horn, which has a 15% chance of missing. So there's a lot of what-ifs, maybes, and should-have, could-have, would-haves. So I'm going to give it a strong even. Not too bad, Heracross, not bad. Jirachi is absolutely screwed. You are super cooked. You're like worse than like Gengar and Cloyster. There's nothing you can do. If you are like max special attack, right? Your hardest hitting thing will be Hidden Power Grass. A crit would not kill Tyranitar, okay? Then I was like, just for gits and shiggles, what would happen if you were adamant, right? And had max attack. Hidden Power Fighting would not kill Tyranitar. You would literally need all that and a Choice Band. So, no. And then Earthquake will just one-shot you. And if you're a cringier Jirachi, you've got bulk, Wish, whatever. It's not going to be enough. No, you can't poison Tyranitar or whatever. It's got a Lumberry. You're just going to get hit by probably one Earthquake, maybe two if you're lucky, and then you're going to be sad. Not even the greatest Pokemon, Jolteon, has a shot in hell. You're about as cooked, give or take, as Gengar. If you are timid with your Jolteon, don't even bother with Thunder Wave. He's got a Lumberry. If you get a crit with Thunderbolt, they're going to live. It's a 0% chance of KOing them. I'm sorry. The only way would realistically happen, and by the way, this isn't realistic at all, is your Jolteon would need to be modest, so you could barely outrun that Tyranitar. And then get a crit with Thunderbolt, and even then, they might still survive. Jolteon is cooked. You know who's even more cooked than Jolteon and is going to take way more damage than Jolteon from an Earthquake? Magneton. You're cooked too. You would need a Slack Berry, right? Then use Endure, barely survive that Earthquake on literally 1 HP, and then go for a Thunderbolt. And you don't have a magnet, right? So you would need a crit. And even then, Tyranitar will still probably live. So it's just like Jolteon. I would say it's worse. Just because even though both those outcomes are about equally as bad. Earthquake's taking out Magneton 3 times over. So if you're good at math, you're literally killing 9 Magnemites. That's 9 Pokemon. That might be one of the worst things I've ever seen. It's amazing how just one simple turn of Dragon Dance can just warp the meta. Because Metacham would have annihilated Tyranitar before that turn, but now not looking too good. But I'm going to be nice. I've been being very nice to these Pokemon, by the way. I'm going to throw you in the L tier because if you have max speed EVs, max attack EVs, and then you're either Adamant or Jolly, I don't care. Well, if the Tyranitar is double edge, you're cooked. You're falling down here. There are no exceptions, but sometimes Tyranitar doesn't have double edge, so its second best hitting attack would be Earthquake. It has about a 30% chance to KO. That's before the Sandstorm, but, you have a shot at living the Earthquake and retaliating with Brick Break, which will obviously annihilate Tyranitar. So, I'll give you a fighting chance. You probably thought that Metagross was going to do good in this matchup. Well, guess what? It actually does. With that Earthquake from Tyranitar, if you have a good amount of HP, you're more than likely going to live. And if your maximum attack, so just 405 attack, 252 attack, Adamant, okay, Meteor Mash on that particular Tyranitar, it is a 100% guaranteed KO. It will do bare minimum 100.2% damage. That's why these EV spreads in Pokemon are so important, because if that Tyranitar had less attack or whatever and focus more on HP, defense, whatever, as they usually are, by the way, you wouldn't have a guaranteed KO right there. So that's why you gotta pay attention to your Pokemons. But once again, you could miss Meteor Mash, so it's not a super hard W. Tyranitar could obviously crit you with Earthquake, and it still has a chance, depending on the Metagross EV spread, to just one-hit it outright. But you'll probably be okay with that Metagross. So we're going to give them a W. Milotic, I'm going to say even, okay? This, by the way, is assuming that your Milotic is max defense, max HP, bold and everything. 2 Surfs will easily take out Tyranitar, but what's Tyranitar going to do? What do you think it's going to do? It's going to go for a Rock Slide and try to flinch you, so that could happen. If it crits you, that's even worse. You also have to factor in a little bit of the sand chip damage. So, and it could flinch you, and then depending on that roll, it can gauge from that point and is like, okay, will I try another flinch, or will I just try to get the KO with double edge? But I mean, at that point, you're probably, if they already flinch you, you're most likely cooked. And remember, that's assuming your max defense and all that. If you're like something weird, like modest, and you don't have the bulk, you don't have the defense investment, Tyranitar is going to take that even matchup and actually make it look like close to a you're cooked matchup. The only way you would win that is if Tyranitar were going to have to miss a Rock Slide or just crit them with Surf or something. But this is, we're being generous with some of these guys. You're one of them, but it's probably not as good as you think it is. So, kind of even. Salamence is kind of in the same boat as Gyarados. It's frailer, but we're going to get him some slack. We're going to assume that he's entering the battle, lowering that Tyranitar's attack stat. Well, guess what? If this thing has no bulk investment, Rock Slide guaranteed 1-hit KO. Sorry. But if you have some bulk, you have a chance of living. And you can't 1-hit them with Double Edge, right? So you basically have a 10% chance of doing something because they could miss Rock Slide. Boom. That's how you survive. You go for Dragon Dance and then you go for Brick Break. Happy Friend Time. It's a bit of a shot in the dark, but hey, that's better than Moltres. I don't really feel like being nice to Skarmory in this situation. Realistically, Skarmory actually would be around an even matchup, but I did say these are 1v1s, and you look me in the eyes and you tell me what Skarmory's going to do. Are you going to bring your YOLO Skarmory and hit the Tyranitar to the Hidden Power Ground? Yeah, good luck with that one, champ. Realistically, though, like if it's a 6v6, Skarmory would go even because you can set up spikes, roar him out, poison, blah, blah, blah. It takes a couple of rock slides, but you could also get flinch, so it's always up in the air. I've been in that situation so many times where my lead Skarmory will get cooked by an enemy Tyranitar, and then I just lose. Anyway, up next is Snorlax. Snorlax, it's not completely hopeless. I'll give it an L. Snorlax doesn't really do good very often against Tyranitar, but if this one's like adamant, if it's got like a decent amount of attack and a choice band, you can live a rock slide, which is probably going to be the attack of choice, and you can 1-hit KO them with either Brick Break, securing you the W, or, which that's not too common, you use Self-Destruct, which is probably a little bit more common on that set. That is a guaranteed KO. So, you know, you could get flinched, you could get crit. If you don't even have the choice band, which is also, the choice band Snorlax isn't that common. It's usually just leftovers, tankier. Brick Break, like if you're max attack adamant, by the way, Brick Break, self-destruct, very small chance of KOing, so it's against their odds. So you basically need a choice band in the situation, which is uncommon. But if you haven't noticed, Tyranitar can destroy most of the cast, so Snorlax has a fighting chance, kind of. Okay, this next one, Starmie. By the way, these are the 3 big water types coming up. This one's even. Because, well, first of all, this thing needs to be timid because it's the only way to move first before Tyranitar. Modest will not be enough. If you're a defensive Starmie, you're just not going to do enough damage. You can't paralyze it because it has a Lumberry. So you have to be specifically timid and like max special attack. But a Surf will not one-hit Tyranitar. You need Hydro Mist. Now, Hydro Mist does have an 80% chance to KO. That's pretty good. So you have an 8% chance to KO, but you also have a 20% chance to miss on top of that. And there's a good amount of Starmies that don't even have Hydro Mist to begin with, so that's another thing to consider. And then Tyranitar, if it's got HP Bug, you're cooked. Guaranteed KO. Double Edge, though, has a 75% chance to KO. It'll do a bare minimum 96. If you're a Starmie that's timid, max special attack. I mean, max speed and then max special attack EVs. You will do at least 96. In other words, you'll do 96 if you don't unalive them, and then the sand will take them out. But you'll take recoil damage, which is about 25. In that situation, if you hit that Starmie, they barely live, you take 25. A Surf from them, if they have it, that is a guaranteed KO on you, because Surf does at least 76. So they could have moved first, hit you with Surf, then you knock yourself out, although they will go down the sand. So that's pretty even, I would say. One of the most even matchups. Don't worry, everybody. Our Lord and Savior, Suicune, is here to save the day. That's going to be a W. It's not a super convincing one, but it can be done. Tyranitar is going to be going for Rock Slide. Suicune is just a very bulky Pokemon most of the time. And even with that Dragon Dance, you can't 2-hit them with Rock Slide. And you could obviously miss. However, you've probably seen a reoccurring theme in this video. You could get flinched. 2 Surfs from a Suicune will eliminate that Tyranitar, guaranteed. And if you're specifically a modest Suicune, max special attack, and you go for Hydro Mist right off the bat, that's like almost a guaranteed KO, right? If it connects. So I would say in most situations, you'll probably come out on top slightly. Good job, Suicune. Somebody can do it. Even in this 1v1 situation with Swampert, you would have to try to lose this. If you're like a bulkier Swampert, which they usually are, even with like Double Edge, which isn't really that common, you can just cringe protect, chip heal, whatever. go for like a couple of Earthquakes, Surfs, Hydro Misses. Tyranitar should die. You don't even need leftovers. You could be a sub-select Swamper. You just sub down, and then you're in Torrent range. You have your Berry. You're faster than Tyranitar. If you're timid, so you're max speed, and you have max special attack EVs with Swampert, Surf is a guaranteed KO because of the Torrent. So, as a matter of fact, yeah, I'm going to put Swampert slightly in front of Dugtrio. Even though for this situation, Dugtrio is probably it's just simply just bringing in, haha, I win. But Swampert will beat Tyranitar in more different kinds of situations, so I'm going to give him some more points. And realistically, Swampert's also the better thing, just because you don't know what kind of defense that Tyranitar can have, so it could live a hypothetical, Earthquake from Dugtrio. This one won't. I'm just saying, realistically, Swampert is the best option for fighting Tyranitar. I've seen some people, they're so afraid of Swampert, they'll have Dragon Dance and Hidden Power Grass. I'm serious. Zapdos is cooked. Absolutely cooked. This thing would need to be modest. First of all, it'd be modest. And you'd have to dodge a Rock Slide and use Thunderbolt and crit them. And even then, there's a chance that Tyranitar will live. So, you're cooked. Okay, so that was every OU tiered Pokemon in the game at the time of this recording. So, we're going to talk about the UUBL ones because, why not? And let's see who does good against Tyranitar. Donphan. No one ever uses Donphan, but that is a very good positive matchup against Tyranitar. I guess it's just because why use Donphan when you can just have a Swampert? Tyranitar, if they have Double Edge, it's not even a 2-hit KO on Donphan. If you're EV'd somewhat decently. And then Earthquake guaranteed 2-hit KO. So you might be going for Earthquake as your hardest hitting attack. It's going to do like 0 damage. And then Donphan's going to chip heal. So it's going to turn into more like a 4-hit KO. Very bad for Tyranitar. Then we have two more surprisingly good BL matchups, which is Hariyama and Machamp. They're just bulky fighting types. You can't one-hit them with Tyranitar. And then they just go for Brick Break and destroy you. Your best shot would be to either A, crit them, or B, hope that they only have Cross Chop and then they miss on top of that. So, no, not good for Tyranitar. So the most realistic way for Tyranitar to beat those two fighting types is you would have to go for a Rock Slide. It has to hit, you have to flinch them, and then you would have to go for like Double Edge. And even then, depending on their spreads, they might still live that and then just take you out of the Brick Break. That's a lot of what ifs. What if you don't even have Double Edge? So that's why they're up there, and Kingdra's actually going to be slightly below them. Kingdra has about a 70-30 winning matchup, like on the money. Why do I say that? Because none of Tyranitar's moves, if Kingdra has literally 0 bulk, like 0 HP, 0 defense, none of Tyranitar's moves that I've stated will one-hit them. You would need like Hyper Beam, okay? So Double Edge will not one-hit them, okay? So you have to be going for Rock Slide, right? But Kingdra doesn't resist like those two fighting types. Kingdra's going to be on life support after that Rock Slide. If it flinches them, okay, that's simple. The next turn, you go for the accurate move, take them out. Simple as that. But if you don't flinch them and they go for a Rain Dance, ooh, yeah, that's Surf, guaranteed KO. They don't even need Hydro Miss. That is actually the best way of doing it. I mean, they could just go for a Hydro Miss the first. No, they're not going to do that. No, they're going to go for Rain Dance. They're going to go for Surf, guaranteed KO. So it's because you have a chance of flinching them or critting them with Rock Slide. You add those numbers together because you have to factor in the miss. It's about a 30% chance that you'll either flinch or crit them. Okay? So in other words, it's a 70-30 matchup, like on the money. While we're talking about this Rain Dancer, let's talk about this one. This one's actually kind of even. Because Ludicolo, if they're more offensive, right, and they have no bulk investment, if Tyranitar has HP Bug, you know what I mean? That is a guaranteed KO. Double Edge, Rock Slide, Pain, it's not going to go too well for Ludicolo. And once again, if they're bulkier, well, then you won't be able to eliminate them. You have a chance of surviving as Tyranitar. You have a chance of surviving a rain boosted Surf from Ludicolo if it's tankier, which sometimes they are. So it really depends on the situation. But I'm going to play it safe, say it's even. Marowak can easily one-shot Tyranitar, but, you know, if Tyranitar's back is against the wall, they're going to try and flinch you, and if they do get that flinch, then the Earthquake or Double Edge, basically a guaranteed KO. So it's kind of riding on the flinch. So in other words, if they flinch him, right, you don't even need the crit. Just that flinch factoring in the miss, that's around a 25% chance, and then they go for the other attack, eliminate you. So it's about 75-25 in Marowak's favor, which I guess would put him slightly ahead of Kingdra right there. I'm going to say Executor is just an L because there's a chance Tyranitar might have HP bug, or it might not have HP bug. Might not. No. If it has it, you're cooked. But sometimes they don't have it. So if you go for Rock Slide, Earthquake, Double Edge, you know, it's not going to take him out. He goes for a Sunny Day, Solar Beam, you're dead now. So I'll give it an L. I guess with Miltank, you could go for a Curse on the first turn, take like 50, and then Milk Drink over and over again, hope that you don't get flinch or anything, and then Curse, and then it's a shot in the dark, but possible. Rhydon actually does good. It has so much attack and defense that it can actually stand up to Tyranitar. An Earthquake from Tyranitar will do... It won't KO him. It just won't. If you have max HP, max attack, Rhydon, it won't KO them. Rhydon goes for Earthquake. They have about an 80% chance to KO Tyranitar. And obviously, if this Rhydon has a choice band on top of that, then you're completely cooked. Okay? If Scizor has Endure and Reversal, it can be done. You just endure down to 1 HP, Reversal. You gotta have enough speed for after the Salaciberry that you're carrying to outspeed Tyranitar. But with that, you don't die to the sand because you're a Steel type reverse. That's a guarantee 1-hit KO. But what happens if you don't have Reverse? What happens if you don't have Endure? Silver Wind, Swords Dance, they all sound cool on paper. It won't be enough. It won't be enough. You would need like a crit with the Silver Wind, Omni Boost, something. What if Ligma? These nuts. Hold on, everybody. Slacking can do it. Slacking's a W because you could get flinched by Rock Slide or crit because they're going to be moving faster than you. But, dude, the max attack, Adamant, Banded, Slacking, Earthquake, that is a guaranteed KO on Tyranitar. You just got to worry about the flinches. There's a lot of what-ifs in this whole matchup chart because of the Rock Slide flinch that you will, I guarantee you're going to have to deal with it, whether you like it or not. So that's what's holding Slacking back a little bit. Nobody's bringing Slowbro to a battle, but if you did, it would be very similar to Suicune. It's got a lot of bulk. It's just got Surf. It can survive attacks. If it's EV'd correctly, it can actually live 2 HP bugs, believe it or not. So you just have to hope you don't get flinched or bad rolls HP bugs, take them out with 2 Surfs, and you got them. I thought Steelix would do better, but not really. You can actually potentially still get 2-hit by Tyranitar. You would need max HP and max defense on top of that. And you'll probably be okay, but that's the EV spread right there. And then your leftovers and you can survive. And then 2 Earthquakes is a guaranteed KO. As a matter of fact, I'll bump it up to even. It could be done. It just depends on that spread. Look, if Tauros comes in and intimidates them, which is super important, if you're Jolly, it's a W. If you're Adamant, it's an L. So you're going to be even as well. If Ursaring comes in, max attack, choice band, slight W. You can live an attack from Tyranitar potentially, barring a flinch. Earthquake has like an 80% chance to KO. So, you know, flinches, rolls, that kind of stuff. Vaporeon's the same thing as Slowbro and Suicune. You're a bulky water type. If you have enough HP and defense, you can live. Hit him with 2 Surfs, potentially get the job done. But flinches, crits, all that good stuff. Dude, I think the craziest scenario I imagined was Weezing. You would have to go for Haze, take a Rock Slide, take like 40, And then you would need like Will-O-Wisp, but then they could Dragon Dance again. They have a Lumberry, then they do it again. Then you're cooked. Then you could try and burn them, get the Lumberry off, get it by another Rock Slide, go for Pain Split, and then heal. And it's a whole crazy thing. But there's just too much flinches and hacks and stuff like that going on. So I'm gonna do the smart thing and not think about it. You're cooked. Okay, everyone. Now, Pokemon, there's a lot of randomness and stuff, but this video has been going on for a minute now, or a lot of minutes, so I will now be ranking the remaining UUBL Pokemon. Okay, Alakazam, you're cooked. You get one shot. Armaldo, you're gonna get cooked. You can't one-shot Tyranitar. Articuno, you probably... I'll put you next to your friend... Okay, I tried. Blaziken, you're cooked. Even if you have Endure, you got the Sand. Chansey is just worse. Blissey, you're cooked. Crobat, no. I don't even know what this Pokemon is. Dragonite, you can't even intimidate them like Salamence, you're cooked. Dusclops will get beaten down. Sand, Flinch, Cringe. Entei, super cooked. Espeon, you can move faster than Tyranitar. What are you going to do? Nothing, you're cooked. Gardevoir, you're slower, you're cooked. Houndoom is slower and you're cooked from an Earthquake. Jinx, you're cooked. Kadabra. Linoon, yeah, those belly drums ain't going to help you, man, when you're getting bashed by earthquakes in the Earth's crust. Porygon is just kind of like a worse Blissey. You're cooked. Raikou, nah, you're cooked. Earthquake. Regice, Rock Slide, you're cooked. You're not doing any damage. Even Regirock, if bro was max attack, he would not be able to one-hit Tyranitar with Brick Break. If Regirock's in trouble, that's when you know there's a problem. Registeel, you're cooked. Sceptile, you would have to sub over and over and over again. Huh. Nah, you're cooked. Smeargle, you're cooked. This guy's cooked. They don't run HP fighting. Typhlosion, dead to an Earthquake. Umbreon is kind of like, I guess, sort of like Blissey. Venusaur, I thought it would have a decent chance, but they're cooked. And I sometimes forget if Zangoose is BL or not, but I'm going to assume that it is, and you're also cooked. I just want to make a public apology to the world. I was wrong for the first time in my life. Sceptile is not cooked. Sceptile is one of the chosen ones. If you sub down, if you're modest or timid, doesn't matter. You're still faster than this Tyranitar. If you sub down into your overgrow range, you already have a chance. It doesn't matter if you're timid or modest. You have a chance, a reasonable chance of taking them out with a Leaf Blade. But if you have a Pataya Berry on top of that, Tyranitar, cooked. Have a nice day. Oh yeah, you told me you wanted to bring Glalie to this battle. I am sorry. There was one more Pokemon I wanted to mention. You guys are always trying to use it. Where is that thing? Oh, I found it. It's right here in the bottom right corner. All right. That's a pretty good looking matchup chart, don't you guys think? Huh? Huh? All right. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think Dragon Dance Tyranitar is the best Pokemon in the game? Can your Pokemon stand up to it? The answer is no, because I was being very generous with all of these Pokemon. Goodbye.